Friends and colleagues, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. I think at the onset, I would like to say that I agree with what Asim Saeed said, that the orientation of the private sector and the public sector needs some work and needs to be more aligned. Anyway, I thank the senior management of SMEDA for inviting me to this august occasion. The topic of how to streamline income regime for the SMEs holds immense importance and is arguably one of the key cogs of the SME ecosystem to address if we are to witness sustainable growth in the segment. While some of you may be aware, and some of the numbers were flashed here during the presentation, I think I'll still go through some of the numbers which are represented through this segment. According to the Research, Regulatory Insight and Advocacy Assistance for SMEs, which is this program, the report findings, the SME segment is estimated to have 5.2 million economic enterprises. It contributes 40% of the GDP, 90% of businesses. It encapsulates 30% of exports and covers 90% of employment in the manufacturing sector. Now, out of this 90% employment in the manufacturing sector, around 71% is in small enterprises. Now, clearly, numbers above paint an impression that the sector may have small and medium in its nomenclature, but the footprint on the economy is nothing short of large, perhaps extra large. However, what we at times fail to appreciate is that this is perhaps one of the most vulnerable segments of the business stratum as well, and deserves our support and attention more than others. Here I would like to share an example of China and the importance of small enterprises. As China went through market-oriented reforms in the 70s and the 80s, a number of small and medium enterprises, which were called town-village enterprises, TVEs, they popped up across the country. While these enterprises had their own unique way of operation and ownership, these enterprises played a crucial role in the economic development and prosperity of China. It is arguably understood that these enterprises played an important role in lifting a large number of people out of poverty in the country. Key takeaway is that small and medium enterprises are an important component to reduce poverty, are one of the most effective avenues to defeat the risk of monopolization and unequal wealth accumulation. Further, it is one of those segments that has the potential to contribute to sustainable, equitable growth, development, and capital distribution under a capitalist, market-based system. Having said, the general operating environment has not been kind to this segment in the last few years. In early 2020, we saw the advent of a black swan event in the form of COVID-19. The country saw its GDP growth plummet to negative territory, with SME growth dropping to around 1%. Businesses in general and SMEs in specific faced increase in raw material prices, supply chain issues, along with labor migration and shortages. As the economy was reeling from the aftershocks of COVID-19, the country had to bear the brunt of the commodity super cycle, which further rocked the overall macroeconomic and business environment of a commodity importing country like Pakistan. Now, to top it off, we had to face the worst floods in the history, with reported 1/3 of this country underwater. According to preliminary assessment report by this project, around 200,000 SME establishments were impacted, with an average loss of ₹6 million per economic establishment, and an aggregate estimate loss of more than $5 billion for the SME sector, and this number perhaps a little on the lower side. Now, the government has been trying to support the sector through difficult times. Loan deferment, interest rate reduction, loan rescheduling, Rozgar schemes, power tariff relief have been some of the key interventions to tackle the challenging environment faced by SMEs and businesses in general. Besides, the Ministry of Planning continues to fully appreciate and lay emphasis on the development of the sector. For example, this project under which today's study is being launched has been supported by the Planning Commission, as Nadia pointed out earlier, and funded by the Ministry of Planning. A number of other projects have also been supported and funded by the Planning Commission and the Ministry of Planning. 1,000 industrial stitching units, footwear cluster development, National Business Development Program for SMEs across Pakistan, SME Business Facilitation Center Multan, establishment of SME Business Facilitation Centers in Lahore, Karachi, Peshawar, Quetta, improving competitiveness through sustainable national productivity, sector mapping and regulatory transformation, and development of National Mineral Data Center and intervention in the mineral sector, which represents the highest GDP sectoral contribution from the SME enterprises. These are just some of the PSDP projects which have been funded by the Ministry of Planning. Besides, a number of non-PSDP initiatives which also impact the SMEs are under works across various ministries, such as Zero Time to Start policy, which is a compliance-based approach to licenses and permits to start a business, Pakistan Regulatory Modernization Initiative to reduce regulatory burden, and development of National Productivity Master Plan. And I see Alamgir Saab in the crowd here. He's been very helpful in the initiative. To enhance productivity are some of the key interventions. In addition to the above, the Planning Commission is working in close coordination with SMEDA to develop 10-year cluster development plans for sectors which have the highest export potential. Now, according to Overseas Investors Chamber of Commerce and Industries Perception and Investment Survey 2021, business enterprises highlight the following top 5 business risks. 1. Inconsistent regulatory policies. 2. Currency devaluation. 3. Rising inflation and interest rates. 4. Government political instability. And 5th, and certainly not the least, taxation policies. While one fully appreciates that the survey was carried out across large and international companies, risks mentioned above are common to all business segments, including the SMEs. Complex tax laws, outdated model of strategic protection, fixing ambitious targets with arbitrary taxes, business choking documentation, and high cost of tax compliance are just some of the areas in our taxation regime which have been called upon in the past for improvement. It is heartening to note that the endeavour today is a timely and an appropriate one to further develop the business and investment environment of the SME sector by addressing gaps and areas of improvement in the SME taxation regime. It is my prayer that the findings of the report are not merely limited to research notes, which was alluded to again by Ms. Nadia earlier. It should not be just an academic research, but are adequately shared and discussed within appropriate departments to derive and implement practical steps for the betterment of this critical engine of our economy. And in the end, I look forward to receiving a report and studying it in detail and giving my feedback to SMEDA and other departments. Thank you.